Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Several people sent me the story out of Ohio, including at least one person said, Steve, I don't know what to think of this. Don't know what to think of this. And I've talked before about police officers writing tickets, and most recently about quotas. If police officers are told they have to write so many tickets per shift or so many tickets per month, is that right? Is that wrong? And I know how many people feel about tickets themselves. And of course, it's not fun to ever get one. So for years, an officer looked like he was writing tickets, but he wasn't, according to police. Cameron Knight of the Cincinnati Enquirer wrote the story. Trocon, Bob, and Mark all sent it. Thanks a lot. A police officer in Lebanon, Ohio, resigned recently after his department discovered he was filing internal paperwork to make it appear that he's writing tickets in traffic, but the drivers were not actually being cited. So it looks like he was fudging the paperwork to make it look like he was writing tickets. An investigation into the now former officer has been sent to the Warren County Prosecutor's Office to review for potential criminal charges. And of course, you can imagine that there are government jobs where if you file false paperwork or you swear to things that are not true or you sign things that are not true or you file reports that are false, you can get in trouble for that. So the prosecutor will dig through this to figure this out. But documents from an internal investigation say that the officer joined the Lebanon Police Department in 2015, and investigators said he started having issues with his tickets around, 4 years ago. 4 years ago. From 2018 through 2022, he allegedly issued 613 traffic citations, in which 140, or approximately 22%, of those tickets appear to be missing from court records. So he filed the paperwork saying that he'd written 613 tickets. When they go to look for his tickets, they can only find so many that they think there's 140 missing. This is an algebra problem. The police chief said that the other officer conducted traffic stops where no citation was issued to the driver and later would complete a traffic citation form and submit the citation to the agency for internal accountability only. So apparently, when the police officers in Lebanon, Ohio, write a traffic ticket, right? You've seen them do this before, presumably, and they give you a copy of the ticket and they keep a copy for themselves. That copy then gets turned over and works its way through the system and winds up in court someday if it's fought. And I know this because I've defended hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people on traffic tickets. And they open the file up and there's the ticket. Now, the original ticket might have several layers, several carbon copies, and one copy is given to you as the driver, one copy goes to the court, one copy might get kept someplace else. But they're saying that he would then file the paperwork to indicate that he had written tickets and filed the tickets properly, and that's a piece of paperwork that's separate from what is generated by the ticket itself. For those tickets in question, which is the ones that are missing, they never made it to court, and no one was cited or fined, according to the police chief. So he would not write a ticket, but file paperwork with the department saying, I wrote this many tickets, submit that, and that's all fine and good until somebody does the accounting and says, okay, over here's the column of the tickets that you say you wrote, and over here's the column of the tickets that you actually did write. The columns don't match. The man was placed on administrative leave in March and later resigned. According to the internal investigation, he told his supervisors that he would be frustrated as he was writing a ticket because he was in a rush and dealing with multiple things, then stop issuing the ticket and just let the driver go. So the implication there is that he actually did pull people over, start writing tickets, and just never completed the ticket. But that makes you wonder, because I've seen it before where the police officers got like a booklet of unwritten tickets, like a checkbook, right? Write a ticket, tear it out, give it out. Next ticket, tear it out, hand it out, that kind of thing. And so I've actually seen, I'm sure you've seen it too in the movies, where somebody says, well, I've written the ticket, now I can't tear it up. Once I've written it, it's done. Sorry. I've even seen them where they go, I've started writing the ticket, it's done. Now, I've never spoken to a police officer and asked them that specific question. Is it possible for you to stop writing a ticket once you started filling it in? And I can see why that might be a problem, where as a departmental rule, they might say, once you start writing a ticket, you better finish the ticket. Because otherwise, there'd be an implication that you could write a ticket at the side of the road and then use that as leverage to, I don't know, blackmail somebody. Say, well, I could tear the ticket up. The officer in question denied that he was filing the citations internally to boost his numbers, and instead said he felt he was doing it out of embarrassment and frustration with himself. So he says, I'd start writing a ticket, I'd get frustrated, wouldn't finish the ticket, but when I got back to the station house, I'd file a document saying I wrote a bunch of tickets. And the bit about boosting his numbers gets us back to the topic of whether or not an officer has quotas. Because you can imagine if an officer had quotas to meet of contacts or tickets or whatever it is, if he starts writing tickets but doesn't finish them, well, that's not going to help anybody with respect to ticket quotas, but it would help him with respect to contact quotas. But another story altogether. The department said the fraudulent citations were discovered during an internal audit and that the officer resigned in the midst of the investigation. The department's taken steps to better track citations and whether they are being properly handled, the release said. The actions of the former employee were his alone, and no citizen was issued a citation from these fraudulent citations. The actions of this former employee do not reflect the values and character of this agency. Meanwhile, the prosecutor's office was asked for comment. They declined to do so due to the pending investigation. And it is such a strange story. And I forgot who it was, but one of the three people who sent it to me, Trocon, Bob, or Mark, thanks guys, said, I don't know how to feel about this. Because the officer is on the taxpayer's dime, as we say. And so tax dollars are being used to pay this person's salary. They've got a job to do, and they're sent out to do a job. And you find out that he's faking a portion of his job, which means by definition, he ain't doing his job. So there's a problem there. So you're paying someone to do a job, and they are not doing the job properly, so they're wasting taxpayer money. That's a problem. Problem number two, of course, is that when a police officer writes a ticket and you're the person who's pulled over to the side of the road, given the choice between A, getting a ticket, B, not getting a ticket, most of us, I think, would opt for B. We'd rather not get the ticket. In fact, I'd suspect that almost all of us, if not all of us, would say, I'd rather not get the ticket, given the choice, not get the ticket. So on the one hand, you got the guy paid to do a job, not doing his job. And you got the fact that, well, but you don't want to get those tickets either. So how do we feel about this guy? But of course, and I've said this before, is that while I've been pulled over before a couple times in my life, and I mentioned the other day I got pulled over once and written up for doing 3 over, I don't think that was a just ticket, but what are you going to do? Let's assume for a moment I actually was doing 3 over. Traffic laws do exist for a reason. They should be enforced. We've all seen situations where people do crazy stuff because they just decided they don't need to follow traffic laws for some weird reason. Run stop signs, run red lights, or speeding like crazy, driving on the shoulder of the road, going the wrong direction. I mean, we've all seen these things, whether you've seen them in real life or you've seen them on TV or you've seen them on YouTube. But we've seen drivers doing crazy stuff. And so you always go, where's a cop when you need one? Please ticket that guy. And by the way, I've seen it before where that's happened. I've been on the freeway, traveling at a safe rate of speed, but close to the speed limit because it was safe to do so. And someone goes just sailing by. And you know that, well, this person's got to be speeding because I'm so close to the speed limit myself. And you come around a curve a mile or two up the road and there's the lights and they got the guy pulled over and the guy's getting a ticket. You're like, yes, once in a while there's justice in this world. Sad part is if that happened in Lebanon, Ohio, there's a good chance the guy didn't get a ticket if this cop pulled him over. Cop may have pulled him over, started talking to him, started writing a ticket, got frustrated with himself, tore up the ticket, let the guy go, went back to the station and filed a false report saying I ticketed somebody. And that's just weird. It's just weird. So it's such a strange case. And I always joke about what makes news. You know, dog bites man's not news, but, man bites dog is news. And here we have an officer who got in trouble for not writing tickets. And it's not that he wasn't writing enough and not hitting his quota. It appears that he got in trouble because he lied and says he was writing tickets, but he wasn't actually doing it. And then he'd file reports on the imaginary tickets and say, oh yeah, I wrote a bunch of tickets. So he resigned, but there's no question that he should have been fired if he hadn't resigned. And that gets you back to the bigger question, is that a crime? And I suspect there's going to be several different ways of looking at this. And it's most likely going to be filing false reports when you're a government agent. And so simply somebody working for the government is filing false reports as part of their job, because most of those kinds of reports often have a thing for signature at the bottom. And they tell these people, by the way, when you sign, you're affirming or attesting to the facts that are above your signature that you filled out. If he's filing false reports, it's related to like a form of perjury. It's not happening in a courtroom, but it's happening in an official setting. And that's the one thing that some people forget, is that, we think of official settings being like courtrooms, courthouses, or like the government being like, the mayor or the governor or the president. But police officers work for the government. They file official reports. And so those reports have got to be accurate. So there's a problem. But it's a crazy story, fascinating, from the Cincinnati Enquirer. Cameron Knight wrote it out of Lebanon, Ohio. Trocon, Bob, and Mark, all send it. Thanks a lot. For years, an officer looked like he was writing traffic tickets, but he wasn't, police say. Now he's no longer a police officer. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Nothing is so strong as the power of self-delusion.